All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something that a lot of people have been asking about, a lot of people want to know about and are a bit confused about, and that's changing the DCT filter of the C8 Corvette. This will apply to your Z06, your ERAY, even your ZR1 or your regular Stingray, whether it's base model or Z51, as in this case it's a Z51. So we're gonna go through the steps, the tools, what you need, how to do it, and if you watch my part 1 video, because I decided to make this a 2-part series, the part 1 series is installing an aluminum door to make an easy access panel to get to the DCT filter. As you're gonna see, for whatever reason, the GM engineers use an aluminum panel on the bottom with a ton of different bolts, from E16 to 13 millimeter to 10 millimeter to 7 millimeter, in order to get that off, just to have access to it. So watch my part 1 video, which will demonstrate how to do that, and you can do that very easily for very little money. But if you don't decide to do that and you want to keep the factory panel, that's fine. I'm going to go through the steps here on how to change the DCT filter. Stay tuned. No particular order. Here are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a ratchet set. You're going to be using your 7 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and 13 millimeter sockets. You're going to need an inverted torque set, which is the female side of a torque versus the inside. You're going to need a E16 and an E8. You're probably going to want a couple of extensions, small extensions, nothing too crazy. You're going to need a drill. You're going to want to use a power ratchet, which I use, which is fantastic. You're going to want a torque wrench, but this one's going to be in inches per pound, not feet pounds, inch pounds. Always have some Sharpie markers. If you like these magnetic trays for keeping track of your bolts, because there are quite a few of them, here are some that you could use. Well, a good supply of microfiber towels. Of course, you're going to need your DCT transmission filter. You want it to be GM authenticated, not some knockoff garbage crap. I got mine on Rock Auto. You're going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. Now, I had these, didn't even use them. I actually used these, which is all you needed, just a small pair. I actually did use a regular pair of pliers to get that lid off, because you're not supposed to pry it off with any tools, you're supposed to twist it, but mine was on pretty tight, so I used this. You'll see in the video, there's a little lip there that I was able to twist this with, and that worked out just fine. Always have a bottle of half alcohol, half water on hand to do some cleaning up. Clean up your tools after. Don't be a dirty slob, clean your tools. And that's about it. Now, if you have a quick jack, like I do, you may want some jack stands as well. All right, let's talk about this DCT filter. I ordered from Rock Auto. This is a genuine GM part. You can buy them on Amazon. I don't know if they're the same generic counterfeit. I know this one is a genuine GM part. It has its own O-ring on there. This O-ring that it comes with is for the drain plug, which we will not be dealing with today, so we don't have to worry about that. But this one does go and needs to be replaced on the inside of the lid that we're going to be removing from the DCT compartment. And it comes with 4 pre-Loctited screws. I guess they're a one-time use screw. Some people say you can reuse them. I don't know. I'm going to replace them with this. This came in the kit, and we're going to get to it. You will need an E8 inverted torque screw. I have it on an extension, and I have a inches torque wrench. It is to be tightened down, when we tighten it down, to about 53 inch pounds, not foot pounds. I know there's a guy online, he said he did foot pounds and actually cracked the screws. Be really careful with that. Once we get that lid off with the 4 E8 torque screws, we're going to need a pair of long pliers, needle nose, to go in, and you're going to grab the bottom of the filter to pull it down and out. There will be a loss of some fluid, but I am told it is merely just a couple ounces and will not affect or need to be refilled until you've done about 5 or 6 of them. So this will only be the second one on this car. right, to make things easier, before you jack the car up, you're going to remove this 10 millimeter and this 13 millimeter bolt. Otherwise, when this is being lifted up by the puck, it's going to make it more challenging. So just get those out before you get it up in the air. All right, so here's your oil filter. This, I don't know if you can see in there etched, is number 1. And on the other side is number 2. Right here, it's etched 2. Those are going to be the first 2 bolts you put in when you're putting it back to make sure everything is lined up. Make sure you do that correctly. These are all your inverse Torx E16. There's a ton of them. You've got 10 mil bolts here to deal with, or 13, I'm sorry, 13 and 10. And we'll get these off here. Here's a 7 mil. Some more Torx. We got to get these out. I'm hoping to not have to remove this black panel by just opening this up and just shifting and sliding this down. If I have to, I will remove this, but I really don't want to because it's just more stuff to do. And make sure you wear eye protection. There's a lot of dust and debris up in there that'll get in your eyes. All right, so this is what the underside of that panel looks like now that I got it off, and it's pretty filthy along with the bottom, and there is a bunch of junk. This is what it looks like in there. Just a bit dirty. There's the DCT filter cover. There's the oil filter, so it's over here on the passenger side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean all this up. And then we're gonna get to the oil drain plug over there and change the oil as well. All right, so I did not have to take off this black piece. There is a hook right here, so to finagle this back in, wedge this under the black, shimmy it down, get this part in, and then shimmy it back, and then it will line up. And then we're going to do our second and our first 1 and 2. We're going to get those in first, make sure everything's lined up, and put it all back together, button her up. All right, I'd like to say here goes nothing, but here goes something. Hand tools only. I would not do power tools on this. Now you don't have to worry about this cover popping off. You're gonna actually have to work it and wiggle it left and right. And it is, from what I understand, a pain in the ass. Especially when this is hot over here and you don't wanna. Also, remember the markings of which direction it is. This is a unidirectional, actually bidirectional. It only goes 180 degrees, but I have mine set up where I have this little mark to the right, wording forward, some letters back, but this blank spot here is on towards the engine or towards the center line. Oh, that's a pain in the ass. You can, well, you're not really supposed to pry it away. You don't want to do anything that's going to make any marks on this, but man, that is on there. Alright, here's a cheat code. Use a pair of pliers on the outside here. On the bottom, do not use anything to get in there. And just kind of twist it back and forth and kind of pull a little bit as you go. And that should wiggle off. You have to do that a little bit. It's really on there. Okay, here it goes. Well, that was more transmission fluid than I thought it was going to be, but they say that's not that much. And here's the lid, intact. Alright, let's clean it up. Now let's pull that filter out. You're going to need a pair of needle nose. Because this whole thing is off, I should be able to get right to with regular needle nose, which I guess is what I'm going to use. There should be a little place to grip it right in the center, and then it should just kind of come right out. Just like so. Alright. Well, DCT fluid looks pretty clean. So we're going to put the new one right in. You literally just push it up and in. Clean that up a little bit. Alright. You do want to put a little bit of transmission fluid on that O-ring there, of course, to make a good seal, and kind of lubricate it up. Let's just go right up and in until it clicks in, and you'll feel it click in. It's got a nice hard click, and that sucker's in. So we're going to change the O-ring on that lid carefully, and then we'll put it back on and see where we're at. Not a hard job. Alright, so here is the cover. I'm going to be using a dental tool, and very carefully, so as not to scratch or mar this very toleranced piece. I can't hold the camera and do this at the same time. Alright, so really easy and gently. They say you could use a screwdriver. I'm being exceptionally careful in using this pick to just kind of get up under here, just like so, and pull that out. You don't want to scratch this piece. And now we're going to replace it with this new O-ring. But I'm going to use some of the fluid that's in here to lubricate it. Just get a little on there, like so, because there's a little residue in there. Get it on, and it will sit directly in its housing, and it's ready to be put back on. All right. We're going to reorient this exactly as it was, which was, in my case, wording towards the front, numbers here, and this blank area was inward towards the engine. I'm going to just no, I don't want to use that. Let's just push this up and in. You'll feel it seat itself in there. Kind of like getting it out, which was a pain in the nuts, but that should be in. And then when we torque down those screws, which we have a new set with the E8 inverted torque screws and the handy dandy torque wrench, I'm going to hand start them. I don't want to cross thread nothing here. This is real important. Because these transmissions have such a history of issues, you want to make sure it's done perfect. That's what I'm trying to do today. Alright, once those are hand tightened, alright, now that they're started by hand, I clean this off just so I can get a nicer grip. I'm just going to hand twist these in like a screwdriver, going on opposite corners. There you go. Alright, so orientation was correct. Now I'm going to finish cutting and riveting in that panel so we can get a lot of easy access to this and this, which is the drain plug of the transmission. I'm sure that the techs, if I have to have that done or if I do it myself, will really appreciate that instead of having to take this whole big metal thing off. All right, guys, so this is what it looks like, and you pull this down now, and now you have access to that DCT filter really easy. So here's the final product, and I have to tell you, I think it looks absolutely OEM, or basically perfect. I mean, shit, it's awesome. So if you're going to be doing it yourself, yes. So anyways, I think it looks awesome. Now, every time I do, I think it's going to be my second oil change. I'm going to be getting into there and changing out the DCT filter. It's pretty... All right, so I wanted to show you how much transmission fluid was lost and what it looks like. So here's the filter, which in another video I cracked one open with a Dremel. Not much was to be seen, but while there's not a lot, I don't know if you can see the dark debris. So there is some dirt in this transmission fluid that I'm assuming this filter is going to do its job for. So I think it is a good idea to change it more than just every 7,500 miles or 22,000 miles and 48,000 miles. They recommend, I guess, doing the DCT filter every 22,000 miles. I think it should be done more often, and particularly if you track the car. I've already tracked the car twice. So yeah, there's some dirtiness to that water, or to that transmission fluid. How many ounces of transmission fluid from the C8 Corvette are lost every time you change a DCT filter? In my case, 4 ounces. 4 ounces! And last but certainly not least, go into your settings, go to maintenance. You use it by using these buttons here. Once you get to maintenance, you're going to see an area that says
GPS connected.
Thank you. You're going to see an area that says oil and fluid life. Go click the button, this button, and then you scroll down to reset transmission filter, which I did. And would you like to do it? Yes. And then now my transmission filter is at 100%. I already did it earlier, but I just want to show you. Once you're all done, go out on the road and shift through all the gears. Get them all lubed up. All right, so let's clarify a couple things. A few people have been concerned about doing the DCT filter because you have to do a DCT flush. You do not. Driving the car pushes the transmission fluid around and through, which basically does a flush. This is according to GM engineers. If you have a bi-directional scanner where you can run a flush procedure, you can do that if you want to. I don't think it's necessary. Prior to doing this, obviously I drive the car regularly, but I did do a 10-minute fair-paced drive just to make sure all the fluid was circulating and everything pushed around. So just do that before you change your DCT filter. That's it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about intervals. So according to GM manufacturer spec and warranty, you need to have the first DCT filter replaced around 7,500 miles. I say around. According to my techs at the dealership, they said 500 before or 500 after. So between 7,000 and 8,000. Get it as close to 7,500 as you can, according to the sources I've been told. That will ensure that your warranty is not going to be affected if, God forbid, there is a problem with your transmission. Now, the next recommended DCT filter change by GM is at 22,000 or 3 years, whichever is first. That's when you have to do an entire flush and replace the transmission fluid, and at that time, do the DCT filter. Me personally, and especially if you're going to be tracking your car, I would do another DCT filter change in the middle of the 7,500 and the 22,000. I did that. I did it about 14 and change, almost 15,000 miles. That puts me right in the middle, so that like about every 7,000 miles or 7,500 miles or so, you can change that filter. A minimal amount of fluid loss. After about 5 or 6, you may want to put a quart in. And the way to do that is taking out the air box, and through the top of the transmission there is an inlet to do that. That's what I'm going to do. You can do whatever you want to do. It's your car. I would also keep all your receipts. I would show that you bought GM parts for the filter. I wouldn't go buying some knockoff on Amazon or eBay. You want to make sure you have the right parts. This is a serious thing, the transmission here. This is not something to be joking around with. Make sure you use the right parts. Keep your receipts. Take pictures like I did of the part to show that it's a GM part, the receipt. You have a log of it, as well as your mileage, so that if ever there's a question for warranty purposes, you can show that you used the right parts and you did it the right way. That's what I'm doing. That's what I recommend you do. It really wasn't hard to take that panel off at all. It was just a lot of screws. Torque screws, 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 7 millimeter. There were a few. Also, there's a video out there. Some people take off the black panel that's towards the front of the car. You don't need to do that. You do need to unbolt along the edge, and then you can actually slide it out and forward. As long as you do that, you're fine. Awesome. You guys, this is not a hard job to do. And comment below what you think. And if you're going to do it, let me know. Stay tuned for more helpful tips. Joe's Garage.